organization of the railways through private contractors has now led to a huge amount of cartelization. You have a limited number of people who have set up companies by different names, who have cartelized and who are managing the entire service. The minister has a daunting task ahead of her, how to crack these cartels. Therefore, outsourcing some of these hospitality functions, after all, the airlines, which caters to a little economically more better class of, economically superior class of passengers, gets its food from outside. The airlines doesn't know how to manage the food management to be served on the aircrafts. So world over it is done from outside. World over, train hospitalities are done from outside. Is it feasible as far as Indian society is concerned? And therefore, we must seriously consider this particular experiment. Secondly, in the turnaround of the railways, one of the essential requirement is that the railways have a huge asset. And I think we in India have a phobia as when we see land, we think in terms of commercializing it. Railways has land, I am not referring to the commercialization of that land at the moment. Because in today's environment, how much will the minister be able to commercialize that land, even though she has made some ambitious announcements? I have serious doubts. So the most expensive piece of land the railways has is the New Delhi railway station. It has 253 acres of land. It's a land which is contiguous to Connaught Place. Ajmeri Gate on one side, Pahalganj on one side, Sadar Bazaar on one side. Perhaps a valuable land of this size, where additional FAR or FSI would be available, would not be existing anywhere, 253 acres next to Connaught Place. And when the railways came out for a bid, tender, for a public-private partnership, in today's environment of economic gloom, not a single bidder has come. If a single bidder has not come for a land contiguous to Connaught Place, then what do we expect railway lands in the other parts of the country to be developed? So let us stop this obsession of railway land and land being sold, malls being constructed, hotels being built on the land. That's not a railway function. Our function is as far as facilities are concerned. You have a set of railway stations, you have an asset of railway track, you have an asset in terms of a well-trained staff. And therefore, in terms of this asset, internationally also, even in England the experiment was when Mrs. Thatcher started privatization in various areas. When it came to railways, she was faced with a blank. Therefore, the British government also could not do it. For a number of years, British Rail remained the same, and it remains the same. But what some of the countries have started doing is fixed route trains, intercity trains with special facilities for passengers who can afford it. So this will reduce the load as far as your normal trains are concerned. Can we use the public-private partnership model in those? The existing operation entirely being with the railways. Can we use these existing assets of the railways in highly crowded travel areas, in intercity where people now for jobs in future will go from one small town to another. People will go from suburbs to the main cities. So can we use where we don't have railway funds or governmental funds available, where people, and this model has been experimented internationally. And I would urge the Honorable Minister to seriously look at this area. One last point, sir. Whereas we said that the Indian railways was built in the pre-independence period, I think there is one area when we are so obsessed with modernization, public-private partnership, tendering for railway land, commercial exploitation of land, we've ignored one basic area. World over, the architecture of railways has changed. You enter a railway station and you stand in front of various platforms. You can easily move to any one of them. In India, when you enter a platform, you either enter the first platform or the last one. Old age people, disabled people, women, porters carrying bags and bags have then to climb stairs, go over to some other platform and then come down. This kind of a plight of porters and others, in a modern age when we speak in terms of human rights and the kind of rights we expert, if some agency went into this seriously, it would be frowned upon. And therefore, I think, and this is my last suggestion to the Honorable Minister, to start seriously reconsidering the architecture of our railway stations. World over, the architecture of railway stations is consumer and passenger friendly. You don't have to climb stairs, and I can, no, except the younger population in India, there's a very large section of people who have difficulties in this, and the facilities of escalators, facilities of lifts are not available. And therefore, I think a time has come to seriously, it's an elementary change which must be experimented on some stations as to the architecture as far as the stations is concerned. So finally, I would only like to conclude by saying that the Honorable Minister has come into this department almost after 7 or 8 years, but there is a legacy behind her. And the legacy is that while there was a propaganda of great achievement, the ground reality shows that she is in a squeeze as far as capital is concerned. The ground reality shows that the efficiency is not what it used to be. The operational ratio, we were told, is coming down to 78%. It is over 92% today, projected for this year. Even when Mr. Nitish Kumar started turning around the railways, when he left, it was 91%. And therefore, today we are worse off after all this track strengthening than even we were at that time. She has inherited a tariff structure which was deliberately altered against the interest of the consumer while propagating that we haven't done it. She has inherited accounts which don't reflect the honest picture. And therefore, my earnest appeal to her would be, please concentrate on these core areas of railways. How does railway earn its profits? By providing freight services effectively while competing with the roadways. How does it translate that profit into passenger amenities? How do you make railways an enjoyable experience? I think if there is some printing work, it can be outsourced. Railways doesn't need to own printing presses. Railways doesn't need to own hotels. Railways doesn't need to own, after all, the market will decide as to which are the costly hotels and which are the budget hotels as far as the private sector is concerned. World over, hospitalities are managed by the private sector, and they are much better managers of hospitality than railways are. The railways ought not to get into medical colleges, and after all, if you get into medical colleges, because you have 17 hospitals, the first requirement will be that you need to have 25 acres of land contiguous to the hospital. If you don't have 25 acres of land contiguous to the hospital, then the medical council is not going to allow your medical college. The health ministry won't allow it. And therefore, rather than get into these extraneous areas, having inherited a difficult legacy, if she concentrates on the core areas of railways responsibility, I am sure she will perhaps do much better. Thank you, sir.
That will